Okay, so this is the Daf Yomi for Shabbat, so February 8th, 2025. Please do not review this on Shabbat. Review it before or review it after, but please not on Shabbat. Thank you. So we're here at Daf 53 in Sanhedrin. We're still dealing with capital punishment and all sorts of things related to that. So granted, according to Rabbi Yonatan, it is clear the punishment for adultery is strangulation, in the manner that Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi explains the reason for his opinion. But according to Rabbi Yoshia, from where it is derived that there is punishment by execution by strangulation in the world, that is, in halacha at all. Since this type of capital punishment is not mentioned in the Torah explicitly, say that decapitation by the sword is the least severe type, as it is mentioned in the Torah. Rava said, the 4 types of the death penalty are learned as a tradition. There is no question as to the types of capital punishment that exist in halacha. Rather, the question is which type of execution is meted out as punishment for which sins. The Gemara asks, what is meant by Rabbi Yonatan's statement? Is it not because strangulation is the most lenient type of capital punishment? The Gemara answers, at the root of the matter, Rabbi Yonatan and Rabbi Yoshia disagree with regard to the issue that is the subject of the dispute between Rabbi Shimon and the rabbis, that is, whether strangulation or decapitation is the least severe type of execution. Consequently, Rabbi Yonatan does not employ the reasoning that strangulation is the least severe. And the least severe is necessary to know, because if the Torah just tells you it's the death penalty but it doesn't tell you what type, you're supposed to go with the least severe because you love your neighbor as yourself. So you want the most compassionate death penalty for them. So Rabbi Zera said to Abaye, with regard to the rest of those transgressors, other than the necromancers and sorcerers who are stoned to death, with regard to whom stoning is not explicitly written in the Torah, because their punishment is derived via verbal analogy from that of a necromancer and a sorcerer, about which the verse states, they shall be put to death, they shall stone them with stones, their blood shall be upon them. Leviticus 20, verse 27. Through what verbal analogy is their punishment derived? Is it derived from the phrase, quote, they shall be put to death, or is it derived from the phrase, quote, their blood shall be upon them? Abaye said to him, it is derived from the verbal analogy between, quote, their blood, and, quote, their blood should be upon them. As if it is derived from they shall be put to death, why do I need the verbal analogy between their blood, quote, and their blood? Why does this term need to be written with regard to various halachot? The Gemara asked, rather, what is more reasonable? If it is derived from the verbal analogy between their blood and their blood, the same problem arises. Why do I need the phrase, they shall be put to death? The Gemara answers, this expression is necessary as another halacha is derived from it. As it is taught in a Braita, the verse with regard to a murder states, Numbers 35:21, he that smote him shall be put to death, for he is a murderer. I have derived only that the murderer is put to death with the mode of execution written concerning him, that is decapitation. From where do I derive that if you cannot put him to death with the mode of execution written concerning him, if the condemned man will escape if one does not kill him, that you put him to death with any mode of execution with which you can put him to death? The verse states, he that smote him shall be put to death, mot yumat. The doubled verb teaching that he is put to death in any case, that is, by any mode of execution. This exchange between Rabbi Zera and Abaye was subsequently discussed by later Amoraim. So Amoraim are the sages from the Talmud, whereas the Mishnah, the Tanaim. So Rabbi Acha of Difti said to Ravina, if the halacha that there are transgressors other than necromancers and sorcerers who are punished by stoning is derived from, quote, they shall be put to death, what is difficult according to Rabbi Zera? It appears from Rabbi Zera's question that he was troubled by the possibility that this halacha is derived from the phrase, they shall be put to death. If we say that the case of adultery of a married woman would pose a difficulty, according to Rabbi Zera, as it is stated, the adulterer and the adulteress shall be put to death, Leviticus 20, verse 10, and therefore perhaps we should derive and learn from the phrase, quote, they shall be put to death, stated with regard to a necromancer and sorcerer, that just as there, with regard to a necromancer and sorcerer, they are executed by stoning, so too here, with regard to adultery, the transgressors should be executed by stoning. This does not pose a difficulty. Rav Acha of Difti explains why it does not pose a difficulty. From the fact that the Merciful One states that a betrothed woman who committed adultery is executed by stoning. By inference, we learn that a married woman who committed adultery is not executed by stoning, but rather she is executed by a severe by a less severe type of execution. Therefore, it could not have been derived from the case of a necromancer and a sorcerer that the punishment for the adultery of a married woman is execution by stoning. If it is rather the case of one who wounds his father or his mother that poses a difficulty according to Rabbi Zera, as it is stated, and he who smites his father or his mother shall be put to death, Exodus 21:15, and therefore perhaps we should derive and learn from the punishment of a necromancer and a sorcerer that one who wounds his father or his mother should be executed by stoning. This too does not pose a difficulty. Rav Acha Difti explains why it does not pose a difficulty. Rather than deriving the punishment of one who wounds his father or mother from a necromancer or sorcerer, let us derive it from adultery with a married woman, as everywhere that the death penalty is stated in the Torah without a specification, you may not take it to be more stringent with regard to it. That is to mean that the sinner should be sentenced to a severe type of execution. Rather, you must take it to be more lenient with regard to it. That is, that a lenient type of execution should be applied. Since in both the case of idolatry and the case of one who wounds his parent, the type of execution is evidently not stoning, why was Rabbi Zera troubled by the possibility that the source for execution by stoning in cases other than a necromancer and a sorcerer is derived from the phrase, they shall be put to death? Ravina said to Rav Acha of Difti, It is the halacha concerning the rest of those who are stoned themselves, which poses a difficulty according to Rabbi Zera. This is because if their punishment is derived from the phrase, they shall be put to death, then rather than deriving from the case of a necromancer and a sorcerer, that these transgressors are executed by the severe method of stoning, let us derive from the case of one who commits adultery with a married woman, with regard to whom they shall be put to death, is also stated that they should be executed by strangulation. The less severe method, he therefore verified that is derived from the phrase, quote, their blood should be upon them, that they should be executed by stoning. The Mishnah says, these transgressors are those who are stoned to death, one who engages in intercourse with his mother, or with his father's wife, even if she is not his mother, or with his daughter-in-law, or with a male, or with an animal, and a woman who engages in intercourse with an animal, and one who blasphemes, and one who engages in idol worship, and one who gives of his offspring to Moloch, a necromancer and a sorcerer, and one who desecrates Shabbat, and one who curses his father or his mother, and one who engages in intercourse with a betrothed young woman, and an inciter, who incites the individuals to idol worship, and a subverter, who incites an entire city to idol worship, and a warlock, and a stubborn and rebellious son. The Mishnah elaborates, one who unwittingly engages in intercourse with his mother, who is also his father's wife, is liable to bring 2 sin offerings for his intercourse with her, one due to the prohibition against engaging in intercourse with one's mother, and one due to the prohibition against engaging in intercourse with one's father's wife. Rabbi Yehuda says he is liable to bring only 1 sin offering due to the prohibition against engaging in intercourse with one's mother. So he has the lone opinion, but the halacha goes the other direction. So one who unwittingly engages in intercourse with his father's wife while his father is married to her is liable to bring 2 sin offerings. One due to the prohibition against engaging in intercourse with one's father's wife, and one due to the prohibition against engaging in intercourse with a married woman. He is liable due to the former prohibition both during his father's lifetime and after his father's death, and whether the relationship between the man and his father, between the woman and his father is one of betrothal or one of marriage. So likewise, one who unwittingly engages in intercourse with his daughter-in-law during his son's lifetime is liable to bring 2 sin offerings for his intercourse with her, one due to the prohibition against engaging in intercourse with one's daughter-in-law, and one due to the prohibition against engaging in intercourse with a married woman. The former liability applies both during his son's lifetime and after his son's death, and whether the relationship between the woman and his son is one of betrothal or one of marriage. The Gemara says, with regard to one who engages in intercourse with his mother, it is taught in a Braita that Rabbi Yehuda says, if his mother was not liable for his father, as their marriage was forbidden, he is liable only due to the prohibition against engaging in intercourse with one's mother, and not due to the prohibition against engaging in intercourse with one's father's wife. This is clarified. What does it mean that she is not suitable for him? If we say that the mother and father were liable to receive the punishment of excision from the world to come, so karet, or liable to receive a court-imposed death penalty for their intercourse, in which case their marriage did not take effect, and therefore Rabbi Yehuda holds that in this case there is no prohibition against engaging in intercourse with one's father's wife. This poses a difficulty, as accordingly, by inference, it may be understood that the rabbis hold that there is such a prohibition even if she is not suitable for him. Doesn't everyone agree that in such a case the father has no capability of betrothal with regard to her. Even if they cohabitate, she is not considered his wife. Rather, it is clear that Rabbi Yehuda is referring to a case where the father and mother are liable for violating a prohibition for their intercourse, but they are not liable to receive karet, so spiritual excision, or capital punishment. And Rabbi Yehuda, in this manner, holds, in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Akiva, who says that betrothal does not take effect with those women with regard to whom one is liable for violating a prohibition if one engages in intercourse with them. The rabbis disagree with this. In their opinion, betrothal does take effect in such cases, although a prohibition is involved. Therefore, the mother is considered the father's wife, and the son is liable for engaging in intercourse with his father's wife, as well as for engaging in intercourse with his mother. Rav Oshaya raises an objection to this explanation, as it is stated in a Mishnah, Tractate Yavamot 20a. It says, if a Yavamah is forbidden to her Yavam by a prohibition resulting from a mitzvah or by a prohibition stemming from sanctity, then since in these cases the levirate bond is not fundamentally nullified, she performs chalitza in order to become free of the levirate bond. And due to the prohibition, she does not enter into levirate marriage. So this is the case where if there's someone who got married and they died before they could have kids, the wife would go to the close relative, such as like the brother, and the deceased name would be propagated through that marriage, so that the children would be accounted to the deceased. But if that marriage doesn't go through, I don't know what you want to call it, like a surrogate marriage, almost like, if that doesn't go through and the parties do not agree to that, then there's the ceremony of chalitza. So, and this is not something that's practiced today, but it was practiced a long time ago. So the Mishnah explains, a prohibition resulting from a mitzvah is referring to secondary forbidden relatives. That is, one's son's daughter-in-law, who are forbidden by rabbinic law. The sages instituted this prohibition in order to distance people from incest. The Gemara explains, and why do the sages call it a prohibition resulting from a mitzvah? Because it is a mitzvah to listen to the words of the sages. The Mishnah continues, a prohibition stemming from sanctity is referring to the marriage of a widow to a high priest, or to the marriage of a divorcee, or of a woman who has performed chalutza to an ordinary priest. The Gemara explains, and why do the sages call it a prohibition stemming from sanctity? As it is written with regard to the priest, they should be sanctified to their God. Leviticus 22, verse 1. And it is taught in Braita with regard to this Mishnah. Rabbi Yehuda switches the terms. He refers to the marriage of a divorcee or of a chalutza to a priest as prohibition resulting from a mitzvah, and to the marriage of secondary relatives as a prohibition stemming from sanctity. The Gemara infers, he switches the terms and does not dispute the halacha, but even Rabbi Yehuda agrees that if a priest marries a chalutza and then dies, she requires chalitza. And if it enters your mind that Rabbi Yehuda holds in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Akiva, this poses a difficulty. After all, those liable for violating prohibitions, according to the opinion of Rabbi Akiva, are considered like those liable to receive karet. And those liable to receive karet are not capable of performing chalitza with levirate marriage, as the mitzvah of levirate marriage does not apply to such relationships. The Gemara solves the difficulty. Rabbi Yehuda does hold in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Akiva, and as for his comment with regard to the definitions of a prohibition resulting from a mitzvah and a prohibition stemming from sanctity, he merely stated his opinion in accordance with the statement of the first Tana, but he himself does not hold accordingly. So again, a Tana is one of the rabbis from the Mishnah. Okay, when Rav Yitzchak came from Eretz Yisrael to Babylonia, he taught a Baraita as we learned in the Mishnah. Rabbi Yehuda says, one who engages in intercourse with his mother, who is also his father's wife, is liable to bring only one sin offering due to the fact that she is his mother, whether or not her marriage to his father was legitimate. The Gemara asks, and for what is the reason for this? Abaye says, it is because the verse states, the nakedness of your father and the nakedness of your mother you should not uncover. She is your mother. You should not uncover her nakedness. Leviticus 18:7. The Rabbi Yehuda derives from this verse that you shall not render him liable due to the fact that she is his mother, but you shall not render him liable to bring another sin offering due to the fact that she is his father's wife. The Gemara asks, if that is so, it should be derived from the verse, your nakedness of your father's wife you shall not uncover, and is your father's nakedness. Leviticus 18, verse 8. That you shall render him liable due to the fact that she is his father's wife, but you shall not render him liable due to the fact that she is his mother. But if so, with regard to one's mother, who is his father's wife, it is found that the verse stands, that is, is written here with regard to intercourse with one's mother and excludes liability due to the fact that she is his father's wife, and stands there with regard to intercourse with one's father's wife and excludes liability due to the fact that she is his mother. The result now is that for his mother who is not his father's wife, he is rendered liable, and for his father's wife who is not his mother, he is rendered liable. But for his mother who is his father's wife, he is not rendered liable at all, which seems absurd. And furthermore, according to the rabbis, too, who disagree with Rabbi Yehuda and hold that one who engages in intercourse with his mother who is married to his father is liable to bring two sin offerings, isn't the verse, she is your mother, written? That is, how do they explain this verse? Rather, that phrase is necessary for the halacha derived from it by Rav Shesha, son of Rav Idi, as the Gemara will soon explain in 54a. Therefore, according to Rabbi Yehuda as well, that phrase is necessary for the halacha derived from Rav Shesha, son of Rav Idi, and Rabbi Yehuda's opinion in the Mishnah cannot be derived from it. Rather, Rav Acha, son of Rav Ika, says that there is a different source for Rabbi Yehuda's opinion. The verse states, you shall not uncover her nakedness, ervata, in the singular form, from which it is derived that you shall render him liable for one forbidden sexual relationship, or erva, but you shall not render him liable for two types of forbidden sexual relationships. So they're deriving this and saying that because the term there is singular, that it's, even if there's two prohibited things going on at the same time, it's just that one case. Okay. The Gemara asks, if that is so, if that is so, then from the verse, you shall not uncover the nakedness of your daughter-in-law, she is your son's wife, you shall not uncover her nakedness, Leviticus 18:15. Should it also be derived that you shall render him liable for one forbidden sexual relationship, but you shall not render him liable for two types of forbidden sexual relationships? But didn't we learn in the Mishnah, one who engages in intercourse with his daughter-in-law is liable to bring two sin offerings for his intercourse with her, one due to the prohibition against engaging in intercourse with one's daughter-in-law, and one due to the prohibition against engaging in intercourse with a married woman. The former liability applies both during his son's lifetime and after his son's death. Rabbi Yehuda does not dispute this halacha. Rather, it must be explained that since the daughter-in-law has one body, although engaging in intercourse with her involves two prohibitions, the term her nakedness, ervata, in the singular is written. Here too, with regard to one's father's wife, since she has one body, although there are two prohibitions, the term her nakedness, ervata, is written. Rather, Rava says that there is an alternative source for Rabbi Yehuda's opinion. Rabbi Yehuda holds that concerning the meaning of the phrase, the nakedness of your father, this is referring to your father's wife. And he derives this interpretation by means of a verbal analogy from the verse, and the man who lies with his father's wife, he has uncovered his father's nakedness. Leviticus 20, verse 11. And the Torah indicates that she is forbidden whether she is his father's wife, who is his mother, or whether she is his father's wife, who is not his mother. From where is it derived? The one who engages in intercourse with his mother, who is not his father's wife, is liable. The verse states subsequently, the nakedness of your mother shall you not uncover, and from the ensuing phrase, she is your mother. It is derived that in a case where his mother is also his father's wife, you shall render him liable due to the fact that she is his mother, but you shall not render him liable due to the fact that she is his father's wife. This is the end of Daf 53.